Good evening, Mr. Bond fans, and welcome back to a video looking back at an older video that once existed on this channel, and this one I'm kinda dreading to watch back, if I'm being completely honest with you. Not because I think many of my opinions about the film will have changed. This is a film that I have absolutely loved for years, like since I first saw it way back in like year 2000, whenever I must have seen it on video for the first time. But I know that my opinions about certain elements have changed. Specifically Denise Richards as Dr. Christmas Jones, and I just know I'm going to be cringing through a lot of this at some of the tangents I go on regarding her character. Particularly now when I I really love that character now. If you've seen my big in-depth video review, I talk about all of my evolving feelings over the years then, and this is gonna be, yeah, the most raw example of Christmas hate that I think I ever put out there on this channel. Interestingly enough, when I was looking back through my old video folders to find the original file, there are three for this particular review. They're of different lengths. One was exported on the 8th of October 2011, and then there were two more that followed, one in the morning of Sunday the 9th and one early afternoon Sunday the 9th. So I must have been having to make some edits for, I don't know if it was like a YouTube copyright detection thing, but the lengths are quite interesting. The first one is 1843, and then the other two are 1810 and then 1737. So this must have been at a time where YouTube was allowing videos to be over 15 minutes, or maybe they extended it to 20 minutes, I can't quite remember. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be watching the longer version, which is 18 minutes and 43 seconds. So there might be some stuff in this that has never actually been on the channel before, uncut Calvin, if you will. Or indeed, it could have been that I was trimming down on the film clips used in order to get it on YouTube. We will find out. Here we go, folks. The world is not enough via 2011 me.
Okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. I love and adore The World Is Not Enough, and it's probably my third favourite film in the whole series. No, please, just listen to me. Listen to me. And I will try and use this review to justify my reasons for loving this film so much. So, on with the movie! The film opens with the usual gun barrel sequence before we see Bond at a Swiss bank in Spain retrieving a large sum of money belonging to a Sir Robert King, British oil tycoon and friend of M. While at the bank, Bond tries to find out what happened to a deceased 0012 and questions the banker, who is then killed by his assistant, known as the Cigar Girl. Bond makes it back to London with the money, and after an excellent flirting scene with Moneypenny, one that certainly harks back to the Connery Maxwell days, Bond meets Sir Robert King, who heads off to collect his money. Then, due to a chemical reaction with something that was on the money, Bond realises the money is rigged and heads off to stop King.
Oh, I knew I was going to show this bit. Stop! I love this bit so much. Oh, poor Sir Robert King. Poor Sir Robert King.
Anyway, the Cigar Girl is on a boat on the Thames and takes a few shots at Bond, who jumps into Q's fishing boat, and what follows is an excellent chase sequence on both land as well as water around London, ending at the Millennium Dome, where Bond blows up the Cigar Girl's boat with his torpedoes. Is it just me being really immature, or does the boat sound like it's farting when it explodes? The Cigar Girl gets onto a very conveniently placed hot air balloon, and Bond begs her to talk when she blows herself up, Bond tumbling down the dome and dislocating his shoulder as he falls. What follows is a wonderful title sequence and an excellent title song sung by Garbage, one of my favourite title sequences of the series. In fact, I absolutely love it. In fact, the whole pre-credit sequence was amazing. I bloody love it. Okay, most of this review is just going to be me saying I love this, I love that, so if you hate this film, I apologise. So, MI6 relocates to Scotland, and we see the staff attending Robert King's funeral, where we're introduced to King's daughter, Electra, played by Sophie Marceau. Lots of drama in MI6 follows, and we find out that the King's money came from a terrorist named Renard, played by Robert Carlyle, who has a bullet lodged in his skull that is driving its way into his brain, and in the process making him immune to pain and physically stronger, although it will eventually kill him. Alright, I'll buy it. Renard had kidnapped Electra before, so MI6 believe her to be the next target, so M sends Bond to protect her. But, ooh, drama, it turns out that M had advised Robert King during his daughter's kidnapping by telling him not to pay her ransom. Ooh. By the way, why are both Tainer and Robinson here? Does M have two chiefs of staffs now? Bond
Tainer. I say Bill Tainer in some of these videos rather than Tanner. I've talked about this in another video. I don't quite know where that pronunciation came from. I don't quite know why I was calling him Bill Tainer rather than Tanner, as they say in the films, but anyway. Very Graham Norton, of me there as well.
Heads to Q Branch to be equipped before setting off on his mission.
Ah, yes. We're going to talk about my love of John Cleese here. I think we might be.
Helps if you open the door.
Okay, something tells me my opinion on this is rather controversial, but I really love John Cleese in this film, as I do in Die Another Day. I'm sorry. I can't help it, he's one of my heroes. Anyway, obviously...
Heroes? I think it was around about this time. I remember seeing him on tour in Leeds. I think it was his Alimony tour that he called it. But I remember he came to Leeds and I think it was like 2011, 2012, something like that. So I was very much on a John Cleese high then. Interesting, because I maybe at the time it sounded quite controversial to say that you liked John Cleese in these films, but I think he has a lot of fans out there for his work on these films. So I don't think that that's as quite a controversial statement these days, but correct me if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below if you really can't stand him, but I know more fans that like him in these films than don't like him, I think. Until you all prove me wrong by saying he's awful in the comments.
This was Desmond Llewellyn's final performance as Q, and his last scene is really pretty great, and definitely a highlight from the series. To be honest, it's a perfect send-off, and while it's a shame Desmond couldn't reappear one last time in Die Another Day, I like that they kind of wrap up his Q in this film. Added in the retirement angle and gave him a protege in the form of John Cleese to take over once he leaves. It's a real shame Bernard Lee couldn't have had a similar send-off in Moonraker, to be perfectly honest.
Now pay attention, 007. I've always tried to teach you two things. First, never let them see you bleed.
And the second?
Always have an escape plan.
Probably the best send-off for a returning cast member in the whole series, this.
So, Bond flies to Azerbaijan to meet Elektra while there's some protest going on about her pipeline. She and Bond then head up to the mountains so we can have a bit of action crowbarred in, because we haven't had any since the Thames Chase, but please. Almost every Bond film has had at least one bit of action stuck in purely for the sake of it. Anyway, it's a sequence that I really enjoy and features one of my favourite Bond moments of the whole series.
Ah, yes, I do love this moment. See you back at the lodge. Then perfect comedic timing on his, it's not quite a double take, what is it? It's just a take. A little furrowed brow. I love it.
Love it. Anyway, we have more drama between Bond and Elektra before Bond heads to a casino to meet...
Bond, James Bond.
Huzzah! Robbie Coltrane is back! Hooray! Huzzah indeed. Anyway, Zukovsky tells Bond that Elektra's head of security is secretly working for Renard when Elektra shows up at the casino to do some gambling. Well, Bond films do famously feature tense and suspenseful gambling sequences, so I wonder what treat we're in for this time.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to talk about not liking this scene particularly then. Huh. I'm not even sure I understood most card games at this point in my life, so I'm surprised that this stood out to me as a flaw back then.
No hard feelings, my dear. Come again soon.
What, you mean that's it? That's the shittest gambling scene I've ever seen. After a night of passion with Elektra, Bond kills and takes the place of her head of security, who was taking the place of a other Russian scientist, anyway, and gets on a plane to Kazakhstan. These sequences are kind of amusing, as it's nice to see Bond in a situation where he really doesn't know what's going on. Anyway, Bond gets to some nuclear weapon place, and we meet...
Doctor.
Oh dear, here we go.
Christmas Jones.
Yep, move over, John Cleese, move over, Alan Cumming, move over, Sheriff Pepper, because this, Denise Richards as Christmas Jones, is absolutely the funniest thing to ever appear in a Bond film. Don't believe me? Just watch her deliver these lines. I mean, she does it with the utmost sincerity. It's unreal. It's hilarious.
Don't I get some kind of protection?
No,
Okay.
Dr. Arkoff.
Down there, it's all weapons-grade plutonium, reasonably safe. Up here, we've got hydrogen bombs that your lab built leaking tritium, which I've spent the last 6 months trying to clean up. So if you need any protection at all, it's from me.
Oh dear.
Oh yes! Oh yes, he definitely needs protection from you, Denise Richards.
Oh, mercy. Anyway, Bond makes it down to the silo and sees Renard removing a GPS locator from the plutonium bomb and confronts him, Renard blurting out Elektra's catchphrase and knowing of Bond's shoulder injury from earlier. But before Bond can kill Renard, Christmas runs in and blows his cover. Stupid bint.
Oh, Jesus.
Dr. Arkoff is 63 years old.
I'm sorry, but look at how she's running. Do you really think anyone could possibly take her seriously as a nuclear physicist? A nuclear physicist. Denise Richards, nuclear physicist.
As I say, I will have been very much influenced by forums and online reviews of the film and things like that when it came to sort of making fun of Denise Richards in this film and the not quite buying into her as a nuclear physicist these days. I don't really care about such things. I think there are many instances throughout the Bond films where you could look at certain cast members and think like, oh, I don't buy you as whatever high-flying role that they have. Anyway, I've talked about this ad nauseum on the channel about Christmas Jones, but I just want to say that I repent. All of this stuff, it's not how I feel these days.
Anyway, a pretty cool action sequence follows with plenty of guns, explosions, and classic cheesy Bond moments.
I still love this moment.
You have a name?
Name's Bond.
James Bond.
James Bond.
Bond and Christmas escape with the locator card as the silo explodes and Renard flees. So Bond heads back to Azerbaijan to have drama with Elektra.
Have drama.
Ooh, Bond's pissed off because he thinks Elektra's in league with Renard, which of course she is, something he confides in M, who flies over and requests from Elektra. Anyway, turns out a bomb stolen by Renard is on its way to Elektra's oil terminal via her pipeline, so Bond naturally steps forward to defuse the problem.
Charles, can you get me out there? Of course.
Wait a minute. Are you gonna do what I think you're gonna do?
What do I need to defuse a nuclear bomb?
Me.
Yes, you need a Denise Richards to defuse a nuclear bomb.
You know how to drive one of these things?
Doesn't exactly take a degree in nuclear physics.
Jesus
A
Christ.
degree in nuclear physics. Denise Richards has a degree in nuclear.
Really milking this. Oh dear.
While deactivating the bomb, Bond and Christmas see that half of the plutonium is missing, so Bond decides to jump off the roller coaster and let the bomb go off. Naturally, Elektra, M and company think this means Bond has perished, so Elektra takes it upon herself to reveal that in fact she is a baddie, and a patricidal one at that. M is kidnapped, and while I know a lot of fans find this aspect of the plot annoying, I really like it. I mean, it's so nice when the MI6 regulars are involved in the plot other than just the usual, this is your mission, these are your gadgets, ooh, I'm Moneypenny, let's flirt, hairy Sean Connery. One of the main reasons I actually liked License to Kill this time round was because Q is a much larger presence in the film, actually going out into the field and helping Bond. Of course, I'm not saying this is something I'd want in every installment, but up until this point, all M's have had to do, really, is sit behind a desk and exposit. It's just nice to see a bit of a shake-up for once. Renard and Elektra meet up in Istanbul and go to confront M, and it's here that we get some nice bits of acting from Judi Dench. I love how she shifts from looking all worried and frantic to a more woman-of-power stance when Renard enters the room. It's not exactly subtle, but it's just a nice little detail about her character, I guess. Anyway, M realises that she still has the locator card from Bond, and we have a love scene with Elektra and Renard. Not sure if the intention of the scene is to be erotic, but it just comes off as being quite creepy, really, though that might well have been the intention.
Most probably.
Anyway, Bond heads to Zukovsky's caviar factory to interrogate him when a lot of helicopters with buzzsaws attached fly in to kill everyone and action breaks out. I love this series.
Oh, yes. I just love this action sequence. David Arnold's music in this film is just... I haven't mentioned it yet.
Ah yes, Bond's new BMW Z8. Surely we're in for another gadget-laden and exciting action-packed car chase sequence like the one from the previous film.
Q's not gonna like this.
Q's not gonna like this.
Or maybe not.
This really is one of my favourite action sequences in a Bond film, though it has Bond being a badass, it has humour, plenty of explosions, some iconic images, an awesome soundtrack, Bond theme blaring through. I just love it. Oh, and it looks pretty fucking fit in high def too. Anyway, Zukovsky falls in his own caviar and reveals that the shit gambling scene earlier was actually fixed, and that Elektra was paying Zukovsky for a submarine captained by his nephew, who is killed by Renard, as Renard and his men take over the sub. Bond and co. head to Istanbul, where they, after a betrayal by Zukovsky's Strictly Come Dancing henchman Goldie, are promptly kidnapped and taken to the tower where Elektra is hiding.
So that must have been... I guess Goldie was a contestant on Strictly Come Dancing. Around this time, or maybe the year previously. Strictly Come Dancing is the UK version of Dancing with the Stars. I know that a lot of countries have their own variations on it, but yeah, topical reference for you there.
Christmas is taken to die in the sub as Elektra reveals her dastardly plan while torturing Bond in an unusual fashion. Anyway, the plan is to explode the nuclear sub in Istanbul, thus destroying the city, meaning that Elektra can build her pipeline wherever the hell she wants, so she'll get lots of money. It looks like it's all over for Bond when Zukovsky turns up to be all badass.
Oh, I love Robbie Coltrane. It's brilliant.
Boss, you're alive. So glad to see you.
Me too.
Rather disappointingly, Zukovsky is shot by Elektra, but, using a gun concealed in his cane, he manages to free Bond. I particularly like this scene, and the only downside is that we never get to see whether Zukovsky makes it out alive or not. And since the series would reboot after the next film, I guess we'll never know. Anyway, Bond chases Elektra up to the top of the tower, freeing M on the way.
Bond! She could just tell by the footsteps. Again, just love this music so much. Oi, fantastic. I think the clips play quite a bit.
Oh no, Elektra, don't call Bond's bluff. It's not a good thing to do, it won't end well for you.
Dive, Bond!
Yep, told you. Anyway, Bond resists the urge to necrophile as he jumps out of a window and into the sea to go after Renard on the nuclear sub. It's interesting to note here that Bond just kind of ignores Em and doesn't seem too fussed to be leaving her kinda stranded on this tower in the middle of the sea. But anyway, Bond gets into the sub and kicks some ass, saving Christmas Jones and putting way too much faith in her to actually be competent. But of course it all culminates in a one-on-one battle with Renard, which Bond wins, of course, by firing a golden rod into Renard's chest after telling him Elektra is dead. With the nuclear reactor disabled, or something, the sub explodes as a normal explosion as Bond and Christmas make their way to the surface and call on a boat of tourists to rescue them. Bond sure does owe a lot to the boat tour industry, doesn't he?
Are you with our group?
No, ma'am, I'm with the economy tour.
Anyway, we next see M arriving back at the MI6 headquarters as they use satellite imagery to find an AWOL Bond.
Look, what's that? So he must be nearby.
The wrap-up for this video is going to be quite extensive, because we've got, like, 4 minutes, 20 seconds left. So,
There.
I thought you said he was with Dr. Jones.
It's getting redder. With his clothes on by the looks of it, but
It's getting redder.
bit of making out. I would imagine I'll have cut this down for the shorter...
Oh, don't act all surprised, Em. Like this has never happened before.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant, here comes the line.
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
Way.
Ugh, you know the only reason they called her Christmas was so they could end on that line.
And I love it.
Oh well, it's all good campy fun anyway.
Yes, it is. Oh, I love this trailer
as the
as well.
countdown begins to the 21st century, it's good to know there is still one number you can always count on.
I got goosebumps right
so
now.
that's The World Is Not Enough.
I love that trailer.
I love it. So why don't you? I don't think I'll ever really understand why this film gets such a bad rap from the fandom. I mean, it's got everything, right? The girls, the gadgets, the locations, the action set pieces, the humor, a nice couple of plot twists. Well, okay, even a lobotomized Jack Nicholson could see that Elektra was obviously going to be the main villain, but it still kind of works. It's nice that they have the Bond falling in love with the main villain angle, and Brosnan is on top form throughout.
I absolutely love and adore Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, and even though I have said that Roger Moore is my favourite James Bond, and indeed Roger Moore is my favourite, I think that Pierce Brosnan is the best.
I think the rest of the cast are terrific too. Marceau is totally into her character, and Carlyle makes an excellent Renard. It's lovely to see Robbie Coltrane back again, and like I mentioned earlier, it's great to see Judi Dench given the chance to actually act. Denise Richards as Christmas Jones is... well, you know, obviously it's totally unbelievable that Denise Richards would be a nuclear physicist, but who the fuck cares? I mean, it's just really funny, isn't it? It annoys me when I hear fans getting all irked and angry about her because, well, just cheer up and go with it, for goodness sake. Go with the flow, she's hilarious, she has amazing comic timing. I'm not sure if she's doing that deliberately, but come on, enjoy it. I think this film also has my favourite ensemble of action set pieces. I mean, the Thames chase, the ski chase, the caviar factory, the nuclear base, the submarine sequences. It's all good. I wish the same could be said for some of the quieter, non-action bits as well. A lot of the talky sequences with Elektra do drag quite a lot, but they're functional, so it's a minor complaint. I also really love the David Arnold score in this film, and it's probably my favourite of his scores. But of course, my favourite thing about this film is the M kidnapping subplot. I know you can easily argue that it's pointless and stupid, but I just love that finally this long-serving character actually gets involved with the plot beyond mere exposition. It shakes things up a bit, as does having Bond fall in love with the main villain, kind of. Well, okay, I know the falling in love thing is quite rushed and stuff, and yeah, again, you can easily argue that it's pointless and stupid, but it's a nice, fresh angle, and I'm glad they went for it. I think that's the thing I love the most about the Brosnan films, how they all try to shake up the status quo a bit and try out something new. GoldenEye as Bond go up against another 00 agent, Tomorrow Never Dies as Bond interacting with an old flame, and this film has Bond falling in love with the main villain as well as the kidnapping subplot. By the way, I could not let this review pass without showing this hilarious clip from one of the featurettes on The World Is Not Enough DVD. Brosnan's bored and clearly pissed off reactions to this woman are just priceless.
Before I came here, I decided to have a little Bond movie marathon, so I went to the video store. Bond has its own section at my video store, all the Bond films, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well...
But yeah, that's it for The World Is Not Enough. I love it. And I hope I'm not alone in that. Probably am, but anyway, next time we shall be looking at the last film in the first James Bond timeline. If you thought Moonraker was silly, then by God, this is gonna be fun. Next time, Die Another Day.
I love that I included that little interview snippet at the end. It's one of the DVD, Blu-ray extras. It's a bit of a fluff, sort of EPK making of featurette. But yeah, the Brosnan interview's pretty funny. He just looks sort of like he's suppressing yawns through most of it and trying to figure out something interesting to say. So yes, I did quite love that interview back then, which is probably why it was there. Also, a bit more of a dose of positivity, backhanded complimentary towards Dr. Christmas Jones there at the end, which I wasn't quite expecting, but nice to see all the same. The review was just as positive and glowing as I thought it would be. To this day, I still love the film. It is one that has never diminished in my esteem for it. I just love it. It's one of my go-to Bonds. I've seen it more times than I care to admit, and it's amazing. Like that video was made in 2011. It's 2024 now, 13 years later, and it's quite nice when, you know, looking back and having nostalgia for these things. It's like, oh yeah, it made me really happy, you know, 12 years after it was released, and it's still making me happy 25 years after its release. I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, and please do let me know in the comments below if your thoughts on The World Is Not Enough have evolved over time, or are you like me, where your opinion has just either remained incredibly high or incredibly low over the years. Do let me know in the comments. Also below there are links to my social medias and the subscribe and the Mrs. Bell notification buttons, which you should click if you want to stay up to date on future video uploads. And with all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.